Hello everybody, I'm SocietySucks and welcome back to another video. Today I'm checking out Ongezellig's official sequel. I should probably start off saying that this isn't actually a sequel. I think this is just a video which covers material that was going to be either included in the sequel or was supposed to be the sequel, I don't know. My friend recommended this video to me along with two comics from the creator of Ongezellig, so I read those, and now it's time to see what this video is actually about. So enough yapping from me, let's get to watching.
If you've been somewhat active in the Ongezellig community, you've probably heard the bad news. Despite its positive reception and dedicated fanbase, Ongezellig never managed to gain quite enough support to continue.
Yep.
After the pilot finished, the project was put on indefinite hiatus, and after an
It got
unsuccessful
cancelled, I'm
pitching
pretty
phase
sure.
and no hope of continuing Ongezellig on his own, Studio Massa, the creator of Ongezellig, announced on September 21st, the day of the creator song have created, that Ongezellig was discontinued. Putting the nails in the coffin
got
and
cancelled,
laying to
yeah.
rest the dream that Ongezellig could ever get a proper follow-up.
Dus dat is het oud.
And yet, ironically enough, it was on that same day the closest thing to an Ongezellig sequel was discovered, that being Maya's diary. In November of 2018, Studio Massa released a short comic strip called Maya's Sweet 16. On one of the panels, Maya's email is visible. Someone discovered that by emailing this address, you'd receive short entries in Maya's diary. This
What?
went on from November 23rd to February 11th. And although the diary doesn't serve as a proper narrative continuation with no real character development, it's the farthest piece of official Ongezellig media on the timeline and gives additional insight on Maya's state of mind, which, as it turns out, is completely fucked. But before
Yeah,
I
no
get
shit,
into
she's
the diary,
depressed.
I would like to cover the Sweet 16 comic first.
I'm pretty
considering
sure.
it's referenced a handful of times in the diary.
It's
The
a shame
comic
this show
follows
never
Maya
went
on her
anywhere.
16th birthday. Maya stays
Lots
up
of
late
great
until the clock
potential.
hits midnight, when she surprisingly gets a message. However, her enthusiasm quickly dissolves as it turns out to just be a bot message.
Yeah.
Disappointed, Maya decides to go to sleep. As she tries to fall asleep, she's greeted by a single piece of birthday cake, and she's delighted to see it. When suddenly she hears a voice
And this is where
startlingly
things
say,
take a wrong
"Look whose
turn."
birthday it is." Isn't she the sister of Coco and Mai?
Oh, he's using
I don't
the
even remember
Dutch
her
version
name.
of the comic.
Should we congratulate her? Why should we? Isn't she giving a party? She probably doesn't even have someone to invite. She would have been better off staying at home today. Perhaps just celebrate at home. As if there's anything even worth celebrating. In a panic, Maya wakes up. Not wanting to face the day ahead of her, she grabs a bucket and gets on her knees.
Yep, and she forces herself to
The
throw
next
up.
morning, as Coco
That's how you can tell her psyche is really just messed up. I get, like, there's social anxiety, and then there's this. This is a whole nother level of social anxiety. Making yourself throw up on purpose just to avoid a day of school? That's crazy. I have social anxiety, but it used to be, it's not that bad today, but it used to be way worse a couple of years ago. But whenever I didn't want to go to school because of it, I just didn't go. I didn't make myself sick on purpose. So this is a whole nother level.
and Maya come to wish Maya a happy birthday, they are confronted by Maya's mother telling them that she's sick. Further stating that Maya needs sleep and that they should get ready for school. Not wanting to leave without congratulating her, Coco enters Maya's room anyway. She catches Maya on her computer snacking on paper noten. After an awkward silence, Coco simply wishes Maya
Yep.
a happy birthday
That's
and
quite
leaves.
embarrassing.
Realizing Coco knows she isn't sick, Maya slowly faces her computer and breaks down. Yeah, so appelsapje. If there's one thing that this comic does, it's really put on display how bad Maya has it. Like, you could tell she wasn't doing very great based on the pilot, but here it's way more apparent just how down in the dirt she is. She fears being the center of any form of attention and the things people might say so much that she decides to purge herself or get herself to throw up just to escape the mere possibility of it happening. The Ongezellig wiki states that the remarks in Maya's dreams are whispers she overheard on the previous birthday, but I think it's just as likely these are completely made up by Maya.
Yeah. I feel like it's more plausible that this is just her making stuff up because of the social anxiety rather than past memories. But I mean, of course, I'm not the creator. I don't know.
As she seems to make very quick assumptions about what people are gonna say. And considering just how low her self-esteem probably is, it's entirely possible this is just how she reckons people think of her. But we don't know for certain. But without further ado, let's get into the real sauce of the video. The diary. Entry number 1, November 23rd. Maya reflects on the history
So
lesson
this
she
is
had
something
about
that I
Anne Frank.
didn't
While she says she wasn't
find
very
out about.
interested in a lesson, it did give her the
I read the comics, but I didn't know about this existing.
idea to start the diary. Maya further says she's worried about the upcoming class lottery, as she doesn't yet have an excuse not to attend. Maya also remembers it's been 2 months since her birthday and that Coco pretends she hasn't seen anything, after which she writes, "It's for the better. She wouldn't understand it anyway." This
Oh.
entry ends on Maya remembering that Coco's birthday is in the weekend, expecting Coco to take full advantage of it, and telling herself that she'll need to watch out. Entry 2, November 30th. Maya once again reflects on her history class, calling Anne Frank, and I quote, a beta. No, I am not making this up, here it is. And Maya says she, I
What?
quote, a beta. No, I am not making this up, here
Kind of fucked up.
it is. And Maya says she could sort of relate to Anne Frank, noting her lack of contact to the outside world and below average looks as the reason why. But the sense of relatability is shattered once Maya learns that Anne Frank actually got laid once, and starts to feel really bad about herself when she begins dwelling on that fact. Maya's worry of needing to come up with an excuse not to partake in the class lottery is gone, because she isn't invited. Upon which Maya comments, I should feel
Wow.
relieved by that. But I don't.
No, she
Ending
won't.
the entry saying she wished she could just sleep through the entire winter. Entry
Yeah, that's the thing with social anxiety. You don't actually want to be completely alone or excluded from everything. And also, the only way to really break social anxiety is to actually talk to people more, attend more events, you know, be more social. That's the only way to really break out of social anxiety. At least that's what worked for me.
3, December 7th. Maya and Maimai were the only 2 of the class not to attend the lottery. Maya was asked by Coco why she didn't show up, telling her that she wasn't invited. But as it turns out, there were no invitations. Unbeknownst to Maya, you had to register yourself to take part. Maya further writes that her mother asked her if there was anything she wanted for Sinterklaas, telling her mother that all she wanted was more pepernoten, hoping for enough to get through the entire winter and also hoping it will solve her underweight problem. Entry 3 ends as Maya expresses her relief that Sinterklaas is over, but calls it the silence before the storm with Coco's birthday rapidly approaching. Entry 4, December 9th. Maya furiously writes, I fucking knew it, as she expresses in horror that Coco invited the entire class over for her birthday, with
Holy
confirmation
shit!
that everyone is coming. Everyone except for Maya. As you can imagine, this is a nightmare for Maya, who describes it as blackmail, as she feels that Coco intensely did this to put her on the spot. Because if Maya joins the party, she'll do nothing but stand in the corner with the feeling of fear, shame and humiliation. And if she doesn't join, she'll upset Coco and would be forced to listen to the joy of others while being alone in a room. That is, unless she purposely does something so stupid to get out of her predicament that nobody would ever believe she'd purposely
What is she gonna do?
to get out of her predicament. Entry 5, December 15th.
Yeah, no, the best way to break out of social anxiety is to force yourself to attend social events. The first few times, it's gonna suck, but eventually, it's gonna get better, slowly over time. So she really should go to that birthday party and just at least try to talk to somebody.
Maya's solution to Coco's birthday party is to voluntarily jump off the stairs, hoping her injuries won't be too grave to end up in the hospital, but enough.
What? Okay, no. Purposefully jumping off the stairs, possibly breaking a bone or putting yourself into the hospital for other injuries. Like, what? Okay, she's a danger to herself. I'm pretty sure you can be put in the hospital just because of that fact. If you intend to do harm to yourself on purpose, you'll be put into... You're gonna be monitored. Let's put it like that. Because if she's willing to go this far just to avoid a social event where she could just stand in the corner and do nothing, there's no way of knowing what else she could do to herself to avoid something else.
Not to have to attend Coco's birthday party and be forced to stay in bed the entire weekend. And perhaps even add an entire week to her holiday break, which Maya feels like she deserves after the multiple panic attacks she got planning this. Entry 6, December 16th. But as it turns out, she doesn't have the nerve to do it. I learned that fantasizing about doing something stupid is easier than actually doing something stupid. Maya says she spent the whole week coming up with reasons to justify doing it, but once she looked down the stairs, every reason not to came up in her. But the one thing that ultimately convinced her not to go through with it was the question, what would Coco think about it? Choosing not to jump, she went back into her room and not knowing what to do, just waited for Coco to invite her. When Coco inevitably asked her to join the party, Maya hoped she was brave enough to accept the invitation. But alas, she wasn't. Finishing the entry saying, it sounds nice enough without that boring girl. Entry 7, December 21st. Maya calls the holiday break the worst break there is. Her reasoning being, when you finally don't have to go to school, you're forced to celebrate some stupid holiday with a just as stupid family. New Year's is even worse. Just a bunch of drunk idiots making noise because the year changed numbers. So instead of relaxing, I
can kind of see that point.
My obligations. Maya notes that Coco was distant this week, but doesn't give a reason why. This entry ends on Maya saying she finally found a personality test that suits her, saying the depressing result is the reason why she trusts this one. Entry 8, December 27th. Maya voices her frustration as she recollects what was said during Christmas. Coco and Maya were praised for...
Okay, so that part with the test. She's just looking for something to validate how she feels.
For the athletic, musical and artistic talents. And for being told that everyone is proud of them. And all Maya received was just a, oh, hi. But Maya shows some restraint in her annoyance, writing, Maya, how can you hate on Christmas? Seeming to laugh it off. Entry 9, date unknown. With the school closed and much to my...
Hold on a second. I haven't been paying attention to the video, I'm paying attention to the music. This is Plants vs. Zombies music, isn't it?
In her annoyance, writing, Maya, how can you hate on Christmas? Seeming to laugh it off. Entry 9, date unknown. With the school closed and much to Maya's dismay, Coco takes her band practice home. Interestingly enough, Maya expresses that she always wanted to learn to play an instrument, but because she was too afraid of Maya laughing her ass off and the annoyance of Coco constantly trying to help her, she never tried. Maya starts to talk shit about the band, thinking the only reason Coco even participates is just because they are her friends, and that she feels the need to have as many as possible, which gets Maya to ask the question, do friends even mean anything when you have so?
To be fair, that's a good thing to talk about. There are people who are obsessed with having a lot of friends. There's nothing wrong with having many friends, but it's better to have like 2 or 3 close friends than 50 people who you barely talk to. But given how Coco seems to be a bit of an airhead, I doubt that's what's going on here.
So many. Maya also recalls an awkward encounter she had with one of Coco's friends named Zoe. Maya accidentally bumped into her whilst going to the bathroom, and instead of greeting each other, both just looked each other in the eye until Zoe walked away. Zoe appears to be the more introverted type, which doesn't go unnoticed by Maya, who questions how Zoe has friends while she doesn't, despite Maya's claim that she talks just as little. And unfortunately for Maya, Zoe also stayed the night, which meant that she wasn't just kept awake by their encounter, but also between the banter between Zoe and Coco, which Maya describes as a 5-hour-long podcast with the most boring people you could imagine.
Wow, she's just roasting
Entry
them
10,
constantly.
January 28th. Maya talks about how she tried learning Japanese once, stating she quickly learned 2 full scripts in just 3 days but quickly gave up when trying to learn the kanji script. Maya says nothing else worth noting has happened except for when her mother asked her to help out at her grandparents' store, which apparently almost gave Maya a heart attack. Maya says that the only reason she hasn't cut herself yet is because she never has to go outside. Come again? And she questions why her mother would even ask her, which apparently almost gave Maya a heart attack. Maya says that the only reason she hasn't cut herself yet is because she never has to go outside. Come again? And she questions...
Nah, she definitely needs some fucking professional help. She needs professional help and she needs to be watched, monitored constantly so she doesn't do anything stupid.
Why her mother would even ask her for such a thing, as she feels like she wouldn't be of much help. Saying, I don't think they'll get much use out of a cashier with the aura of an aborted blobfish. But Maya makes sense of it all by saying, but I can imagine your own blood doesn't mean a whole awful lot to you when you're brought 2 replacements to compensate. But despite what her previous sentence very much implies, Maya seems to reject any notion of having mommy issues, as she'd rather not have.
So the other 2 are adopted, and she thinks it's because she's not good enough. Holy crap.
Another person trying to be as involved as Coco, saying that as long as her mother leaves her alone, Maya won't have a reason to cut herself. Maya further states that she never really understood why people cut themselves, as when she tried it, it just hurt, which she chalks up as just her not being miserable enough. However, she fully expects that to change in the next 2 weeks with the second most demoralizing day of the year coming.
I've never cut myself, so obviously I don't know, but I feel like the reason people cut themselves is just to feel something. Because, you know, usually you associate cutting with the person who's depressed, the person who feels nothing. You know, depression, you feel nothing. So, I don't know. Maybe cutting themselves makes them feel something. It's pain, but it's something, which is better than nothing. I don't know. I haven't ever done it, so I can't really talk about it. I don't know.
That being Valentine's Day. Entry 11, February 11th. Maya goes into detail about why she hates Valentine's Day so much, explaining how every Valentine's
she's
Day
lonely?
the school organizes a way for students to give a rose to the person they fancy. As it turns out, Maya always gets one from Coco out of what Maya perceives as pity. And even though she believes Valentine's Day exists just so people can sell shitty perfumes and knows she'll never get another one, deep down she always hopes for a second rose. And in order to prevent the inevitable disappointment, her solution is to remember why she'll never get a second one. To remind herself of just how boring and ugly she is, no matter how tiresome it becomes. Entry 12, Valentine's Day. Dear Diary, Valentine's Day. I got a second rose today. It's currently torn up in the bin. And everything just got worse.
What?
I'll explain later. I got to try something first. Entry 13, as woensdag. To Maya's absolute disappointment, she explains that
From who? And how could it have possibly made the situation even worse? Okay.
Coco gave a rose to everyone in the class, and the second rose she received was also from Coco. Completely blinded by rage, Maya tore up both of her roses in full view of the rest of the class. When Maya got home, she locked herself in a room just waiting for Coco to beat the shit out of her. But instead of knocking all her teeth out or leaving her to starve for that night like she expected, Coco instead apologizes to Maya. This makes Maya feel so much guilt, she chooses to intensely starve herself out as punishment. Not only skipping dinner, but also choosing to skip both breakfast and lunch, despite the massive stomachache she has.
Wow.
She says her stomachache was in fact so painful she completely forgot she was Maya and therefore actually considers the day better than usual. It's not until the next evening, after an entire day, that she eats.
Wow, this is going even further with every next entry. This just gets worse and worse with every single one.
Again. And still she feels bad about it. Maya continues to eat nothing but dinner for the next 3 weeks, causing her to go from an already underweight 44 kilograms to
You'll
just
kill
40.
yourself.
Maya justifies all this by saying that she isn't anorexic and is in fact fasting, because that's just something Brabanders do before carnival. And Maya finishes the diary by saying, normally I feel like throwing up during carnival, but that's probably not gonna happen when you
have
got
nothing to throw up, yeah.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, were all the
that's not necessarily true. You can throw up water. And I know that because that's happened to me a couple months ago. I got so sick, I was throwing up when all I was doing was drinking water. It was that bad.
entries in Maya's diary. What the fuck did I just read? The one
So that
thing
was
you'll
the end.
notice by reading both Maya's Sweet 16 and the diary is that they are significantly darker than the pilot itself. I stated in my Ongezellig review that I was pleasantly surprised that Ongezellig wasn't as bleak as I expected it to be, because this was the tone I originally envisioned Ongezellig was going to have.
Well, considering everything in the diary happened after the pilot, I'm assuming that if the show would have continued, it would have just kept getting darker and darker with every episode, until it eventually got better, which would have definitely happened at some point.
Hell, even Studio Massa seemingly admitted that perhaps it was just a bit too much. And because of Studio
Not
Massa's
really.
regret when it comes to the tone, he doesn't recognize Maya's Sweet 16 and by proxy the diaries as canon. I mean, he didn't mention the diaries, but that's probably because everyone included.
I don't think there's really anything wrong with it. I mean, this is the type of stuff that some people do deal with every day in real life, so I don't necessarily see anything wrong with it. It's a fact of life. Some people deal with these types of problems. But I guess he wanted a more light-hearted show, less serious, not something of this magnitude.
Including him forgot they even existed. And although that kind of sucks, I think it's not that strange as to why he looks at it like that. Remember, both of these were written before part 2 was even released, and considering Ongezellig's production cycle of 4 years, certain elements are bound to change. The diary is very much a relic of Ongezellig's early days, a time when Studio Massa probably didn't know exactly what he wanted to do. But even if the events of the diary aren't canon, I think the characterization of Maya could still be considered as such, and is interesting enough to deserve the light of day. Speaking of the characterization of Maya, what's wrong with you? Maya is without a doubt the best character in Ongezellig. Whilst I do think that Coco is a fun character and that Mai has way more potential, with what we have, which isn't a whole awful lot, Maya is by far Ongezellig's most interesting and fleshed out character. Something that you
she is the main
when
character.
You hear people discussing Ongezellig is that a lot of people find themselves relating to Maya. But I personally...
That's kind of how it should be, no? The most interesting character should be the main character, the one we're following all of the time.
Never found her that relatable. Even after learning that I myself might also have ADD, relatability was never the thing that made her an interesting character to me. For me, the appeal was always the relationships she has with the people around her, and the fact that she's a ticking time bomb. And since New Year's is my favorite holiday, I have every intention to stick around for the boom. There are a lot of factors relating to Maya's personal struggle, and pretty much all of them stem from her social anxiety. Maya is deathly afraid of anything social, and whilst there's no real explanation or hints given as to why, I believe it has everything to do with the adoption of Coco and Mai. Coco and Mai seem to have been adopted when Maya was around the age of 5. Learning you'll get new siblings typically causes a huge amount of stress in children of that age, and the fact that they were around the same age as Maya and that it may have been incredibly spontaneous for her would have unquestionably added to that stress. Furthermore, nobody except for Maya has a regional accent. This gives way to the idea that Maya's family at one point in time moved away from North Brabant, meaning that whilst Maya was already out of her element, she spontaneously had to share a house with 2 people that don't even speak her language. And as a final source of stress, this would all be around the same time that she'd entered primary school. I can see that. And because her parents most likely already had their hands full with Coco and Mai, it left Maya with nobody to really turn to, resulting in her feeling completely isolated in her confusion.
Why would you adopt 2 children if you're not going to be able to deal with all 3? You already have a child, you adopt 2 more, knowing you probably won't have enough time for all 3 of them. Yeah, not the smartest decision on the parents' part.
And once she got used to the feeling of isolation, she never managed to escape it. Whilst I think that these are the most important factors contributing to Maya's situation, I still think that there's a lot more to it. Maya in general also comes across as an asocial bastard. She indirectly tells Mai that they aren't family, she has zero understanding for someone with the same shortcomings as her, as evidenced by her encounter with Zoe, and uses Coco's trauma as a way to get back at her for a perceived insult. That's another thing that I very quickly picked up on, just how resentful Maya is towards everyone around her. Her hatred for Coco can be explained by just how jealous and inadequate she makes her feel. That someone with such a traumatic past can still manage to outdo her. And that to Maya, Coco's attempts to help her are in reality just fronts for her to humiliate Maya. At first I thought that the feelings of jealousy...
I mean, that makes perfect sense. I feel like that's exactly what a person in her situation would feel like.
and inadequacy were only directed at Coco, but as it turns out, they count for Mai as well. However, Maya doesn't seem to take Mai nearly as seriously as she does Coco. She's portrayed in Maya's imagination as SpongeBob rather than a perfect princess like Coco, and Maya never refers to her by her actual name in the diary, calling her Pippi as a reference to Pippi Langstrumpf, showing that to some degree Maya actually looks down on her, and just by how annoyed Maya always seems with her, probably hates her guts too. But most shocking of all, Maya shows to be completely apathetic towards her mother, thinking she's just an afterthought to her. While her hate and distaste can mostly be explained by what happened when she was younger, there is a second factor at play: Maya's completely fucked up worldview. Maya hates the people around her because she believes that they hate her. Maya goes to sleep every night believing that the reason why Coco and Maya were ever even adopted in the first place was because she was that big of a disappointment.
Because she wasn't enough?
That Coco is constantly out to get her, and that everyone hates her. And this line of thinking has completely destroyed her self-esteem, to the point that she thinks herself so worthless that she thinks it's pointless to even try and socialize. Because in her mind, there's absolutely nothing to like about her. Maya knows herself and doesn't recommend her to anyone. And her low self-esteem has slowly evolved into self-hatred. And it's how Maya can justify doing such horrible things to herself.
This analysis of her character is honestly spot on, it's perfect.
Every time Maya screws up, she's one step closer to proving to herself that she's indeed the failure she believes her parents think of her. However, Maya would never be able to handle such an idea. And instead of admitting there's a problem, she starts telling herself things. That friendship is overrated. That she doesn't need it. That she doesn't need anyone. However, just one quick look makes it very clear that that's not the case. She feels bad when she thought she wasn't invited to the class lottery, feels inadequate by those with friend groups and relationships, and the most obvious sign, her daydreams with her imaginary friends.
I mean, yeah, humans are social creatures. If we spend too much time in isolation, we go nuts, we go crazy, insane. So as much as anybody says that friends are overrated and they don't need anybody, that's just not true because of human nature. We need other people to stay sane.
Hell, the only thing she's seen enjoying between the pilot, comics and diary is watching hentai, a portrayal of connection and intimacy. And the most tragic thing about it is, by denying the truth about her deepest desire, she's actively preventing herself from getting what she truly wants. Maya is stuck in a vicious cycle of failing, denying and isolating. Her choice of isolating herself has robbed her of the opportunity to ever make strong bonds and social skills at a young age, which makes it nearly impossible for her to connect with people. But because she can't accept her own shortcomings, starts telling herself that she's better off alone, even though she knows that that's not true. Maya got stuck in a ditch at a young age and never managed to get back up. But all of this makes it ultimately more satisfying when she eventually does. If you want to read the diary for yourself, I've linked a compilation with all the entries in the description.
She doesn't,
Whilst
though.
it's in Dutch, I'm confident that if you throw it through a translator,
it's gonna make it sweeter when she eventually does, but, well, she never does because this show, it's been cancelled. So we'll never see that happy moment. Yeah, that was a great video. A great explanation, great analysis of Maya's character. I mean, yeah, I guess you could say that was Ongezellig's official sequel, because those diaries could have been made into their own episodes, or at least like a spin-off or something, had the show actually gotten more popularity than it did. A link to the original video will be down below if you want to check it out. And yeah, I think I've said everything I wanted during the video, so I hope you enjoyed. If you did, consider subscribing and leaving a like. If you're interested, why not watch this video right here? And with that, I'll see you in the next video.